I don't know if you saw this story when it broke last year, but almost exactly a year ago, that explorers had found the wreck of the HMS Endurance. And this was discovered off Antarctica, about 9,800 feet down in the ocean. And it's remarkably well preserved, this ship, because it's so cold down there that there's no decay. No little creatures can get at it. But this is the ship that carried Sir Ernest Shackleton in 1914 and his team of 28 other men on this exploration of Antarctica. Back then, it was a again cutting-edge thing. No one had seen too much of the place. And they were on this expedition to be the first people to cross the entire continent of Antarctica. And so, again, this would be a very dangerous thing, but maybe discover some new territory nobody had ever seen before. Also win glory, fame. You're going to be famous, this polar expedition. Back in those days, this is what made you famous. Go discover something new. So on August 9th, just literally a few days after the outbreak of World War I, Shackleton actually asked Churchill, he would hate me to call him Hitler. Churchill, who was the head of the Navy, he said, hey, should we really go? The war started? And Churchill said, yes, go ahead. It'll be good for us. Go down there on your expedition. So he took off from England, went down to Buenos Aires in Argentina, and then off to South Georgia Island, the last outpost before Antarctica, this island in the middle of the South Atlantic. And they arrived in mid-January 1915 to the coast of Antarctica. So they anchored. Again, this ship, the Endurance, is prophetically named because this is what the experience would be. That ship became trapped in ice, surrounded by ice, and this didn't really upset Shackleton at first because that's what usually happened. Your ship would get iced in. But then the ice that held the ship started drifting northward. And eventually he said, he realized that there not only was the hope of crossing the continent disappearing, but they were now going to be maybe starving to death. They were in danger of death. It especially happened when the ship's hull eventually was crushed by the expanding ice. As the ice started to expand and it surrounded the thing, it crushed it like a little nutshell, and then it dropped where the scientists found it just a year ago. So they got off the supplies from the ship, and they made this little camp on Elephant Island, which is a completely barren piece of rock right off the Antarctic coast. And there they sat. And now Shackleton had to figure out how to survive with his men. Temperatures below zero, shortage of supplies made things difficult. There's no way to communicate with the outside world. Nobody knew anything about him. So eventually, this is again 15 months after they first got there. So this is a year and a fourth quarter. This is a long time. Shackleton eventually, there's no help. We just have to take one of these little lifeboats that was saved from the big ship, and me and 3 other guys, we're going to head north and try to get back to South Georgia Island and bring help. This is one of the great maritime feats of history that these 4 men, they got in that little boat, they faced 45-mile-per-hour winds, 60-foot waves, you can imagine that Antarctic Sea, and they did get back to South Georgia Island, but they landed on the south end of the island where there's nobody. So they had to then hike over this snow-covered island to the town on the north coast. And finally, they could get a ship and head back to their people. They're still stuck on Elephant Island. And he finally got back 4 months after leaving them. They finally got back with a ship. So again, we're talking a couple of years now. These guys have just been eating nothing. And he found that they were all alive. All 28, they were not in good shape, but they were all alive. And so all of them got back to England, and Shackleton returned as this great hero, but not for the reasons he thought. He thought he was going to go down there, become this great explorer. He already was a good explorer, but he's going to do this wonderful feat. People are going to laud him for this brave fact that he went all across the continent, and people are going to go crazy. Well, they did, but not for the reason he thought. So a long story, but I think it has something to do with what's happening in our gospel today and the season that we've started of Lent. So this is a good time, first Sunday of Lent, good time to meditate on our own life's journey. We've got this expedition going too. We're on the way. And here too, there's great need for endurance and perseverance. Because, again, things are not going to go the way we thought or hoped. Perseverance is necessary because I think how many of us today are living in situations we had not planned on. This was not the life I thought I was going to have. Like Shackleton, we've set out maybe to do glorious things, and we've been diverted. We've had to change plans completely. And yet, God's still here in our trials, our tribulations, whatever those happen to be. He's still here. And perhaps those trials are maybe our own health. Maybe somebody we love real close to us, health. Maybe it's something like our careers really has not gone anywhere. Like my career's stalled or collapsed or it's just not there. And think how many. We have troubled marriages or kids that have gone off the path or relationships are broken, all of that. And it can even bring us to think, oh, God, what's your plan? Or maybe, is there a God? That can all happen on this pathway, this exploration we have. So again, life is this exploration that is of an unknown greater than Antarctica. We don't know what the future is going to be. And we're going into it. Explorers in it. It'll test us very severely. It already has. Think about how many of you have been tested already. So in our gospel today, every first Sunday of Lent, we always have the temptations in the desert. That's always the way we start. And here the devil is tempting Jesus with the worldly things, power, wealth, status, fame. And these temptations, we face them in little, smaller ways. We're not given the chance to have all the kingdom of the earth, but we are maybe given a chance to get that promotion if we do something that's kind of sideways. But again, it's possible, we're tempted. But Jesus, in each case, he overcomes the temptations, choosing to do the Father's will rather than the things of the world. So faithfulness, again, it requires this perseverance, this endurance in the desert against those temptations. So the point, though, is that this faithfulness has its own greater rewards than anything offered by the world. So this is what Jesus knew, and he wants us to know. That there's something better on offer than what the devil can offer. So Ernest Shackleton was viewed by the British public not as a failure. Yeah, he didn't fulfill the mission. He did not cross the Antarctica. But he wasn't seen as a failure. He was seen as a winner. He was seen actually as a hero. And again, he was a hero in the midst of this huge war where all these people were dying. They're doing all these wonderful or glory things. But the British people recognized that he had showed great courage, great endurance, great love for his men, and they loved him. And so he succeeded in becoming a full human being. Again, that wasn't why he set out. It didn't happen the way he thought it did. But because he reacted to the things thrown at him in the moment with virtue, he develops into who he's supposed to be. This is how we're challenged by the Lord. The point of our lives isn't what the devil and the world says that it is. Wealth, power, success, fame. Now, you might get some of that too. Maybe, maybe not. But it's not the point of life. Those are just temptations. And our lives are not going to turn out, again, any more like we expect than Shackleton's did. We'll be diverted by the circumstances of life. And rather than see those things as the obstacle and the frustration and the point of anger, you should see that that's the point, that's where you're going to find your glory. And the obstacles and the frustrations and the things thrown in your way and the diversions and the kind of the regression backward, all those sort of things, that's where you'll find your glory. And so enduring, persevering with courage and with charity, the things the world throws at, while keeping to the Father's will. And Lent's the time to do this. It's such a small thing, really. Think about what you've said, this is what I'm going to do for Lent. This is what I'm going to not do for Lent. It's not like you're going to sit for 2 years in Antarctica, right? Eating whale blubber or whatever. But it's still something. Again, it's a sense of Again, we got to toughen up so we can, with virtue, face the things of life with a will towards the Father's will. So tonight, concretely, at least for some of us, we begin a men's group at St. Monica's. So one of our school teachers, Colin Lewis, and I will be leading this weekly gathering for men from 8 to 9 o'clock each evening, Sunday evening. We'll meet in the church for 15 minutes beforehand. So we come here at 8 o'clock. I'll expose the Blessed Sacrament. We'll have a time for 15 minutes of quiet prayer. There'll be some spiritual reading available if you want to do some of that. Then we'll go down to the school for 45 minutes, and we're going to just discuss the chapter that we've read in the book we'll choose. And we'll choose that tonight. We'll vote on the book. The choices are, first three, The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It's pretty famous. You might have read that. Happy Are You Poor, which is a take on Blessed Are the Poor in Spirit. Happy Are You Poor by Father Thomas DeBay. That's dealing with what the devil was talking about today. How can we deal with the material world in such a way that we become happy rather than get sucked in by the devil? Or the third choice is it's a biography of Father Willie Doyle. It's called To Raise the Fallen. He was an army chaplain in the British Army in World War I. And he's up for beatification. So he had some amazing experiences in spiritual powers. So, again, if you're a man over 19 years of age, I hope you'll consider joining us. Just as an aid to, again, fight the fight and persevere and endure faithfully in your journey. Again, our lives are short. We have only so many Lents left. Turn to the Lord with all seriousness. But I'd also say with excitement. You might say, well, my life is not exciting. Well, your adventure is exciting because the stakes are huge. Again, what's needed are courage and faith, hope, love for one another, not ever giving up, no matter what the world or the devil throws at us. And God's going to give us this grace. We can get through. That's a good thing. Shackleton didn't know whether he's going to get his men saved or not. It's up to us. We can get through with God's grace. So, and as with Sir Ernest Shackleton, so he's eventually knighted, Sir Ernest Shackleton's expedition, the thing is, life for a Christian, it's an adventure. It's very exciting if you think you're an explorer into God's future for you. If you're a Christian, you're living an adventure wherein, this is an interesting thing, where the losers in the world's eyes become the heroes in eternity. That's what our life's about.